Hey, so we are live. Hey, how's it going, Jason?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Good, good. So the reason I wanted to get you on today is I know you have a new course that's for a few days now. It's only open for a limited amount of time. It's on game development on Unity 3D, and it's pretty awesome. And I want to point this out too because the Unity 3D program you're running with, it's not like a 5-hour video course or anything like this. This is a 6-week course that you're going to give a lot of one-on-one input, things like that. Can you explain a little bit about this course?
Yeah. So, like you said, it's running for 6 weeks. We usually do about an hour and a half to 2 hours of lectures and lessons a day, and then and the way I've got it set up, I usually just prepare those the day before, put them up so that everybody who's enrolled can get at them at whatever time is best for them. Everybody's working different times and different time zones, and then they have some live Q&A sessions multiple times a week where people just hop in. We get in just a Google Hangout like this, and people ask questions. They either type them or talk away, and we talk about things that they're running into. Anywhere that got stuck would definitely get them all fixed through there. Usually they're fixed before we get to a Q&A though. And then there's also a lot of just questions, like things that people want to add. People are like, hey, this was really cool, but I also was curious, like, how would we add in this other thing? And we'll just talk it through. And then, sometimes that'll also get added on as an extra little thing in the next lesson too. Just kind of go over their question in more detail. Um, but yeah, and then there's a lot of back and forth too, just with everybody else on the in the course. We have a private Facebook group where people are all chatting back and forth, answering each other's questions, helping each other out, and I'm always there too. And then doing a decent amount of just one-on-one guiding people through wherever they get stuck. So it's long. There's a lot of work to it, but we cover a ton of stuff. So learn a whole bunch from knowing almost nothing.
So you can come into this course without any sort of knowledge on development at all, and or game development that is, and just kind of start running. It kind of progressively gets more into it, correct?
Yeah, so the first week I do a lot of the fundamentals. So we're building stuff out and learning things, but also kind of heavily focusing on some of the basic stuff as well. And we're really pointing out what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it works. Especially for anybody who's not experienced with C Sharp. Maybe they do JavaScript or Python or PHP or whatever. There are programmers who do all kinds of different stuff. Or if they just never coded, a couple of the people in the last time I ran through had never coded at all. So it was like their first time learning how to program and do game development at the same time. And it worked out great for them. It's a lot of fun though. I mean, we get to build games and learn how to code and learn how to make awesome stuff.
So by the end of it, do you create an actual 2D and 3D game? And by the
Um,
way, anybody that's watching, I did put a link below in the description of where you can check out this course too.
cool. No, you create a 2D game and two 3D games. So we're gonna start with a 2D game again. When we're focusing on the fundamentals, try to keep the rest of the stuff a little bit more simple. Although there's not a huge difference between 2D and 3D. It's really just slightly different objects that you use and some camera options. But you also mix a lot of 2D and 3D. A lot of games do that. They have a 3D stuff up front, 2D stuff in the back, or mix and match wherever, not counting the UI. Um, and then in that first part, we also do a lot of just UI work, learning how to build out a UI and hook it all up in Unity, which is helpful also if you want to build apps, things that are not just games but some kind of data apps, stuff like that. And then I dive into 3D development and build out a couple different games, multiplayer, like local multiplayer with Xbox controllers, be playing around and blowing stuff up. And then we're going to go into a shooter after that. And then
Yeah.
after that, we're actually going to go into VR development with the shooter. So,
So what kind of shooter? A third-person shooter or like a first
uh,
person?
first and third, and then, like I said, we'll turn it into VR after that for anybody who wants to do VR development.
Cool, cool. And what happens? Let me ask you this. So if you want to take the course, but you can't make the live sessions, is that okay, or how's that work?
Yeah, it's totally fine. That's again one of the reasons that I try to release the sessions really early in the morning. Just have them up there so you can go through them whatever time of day is best for you. You can pause, rewind, step back through it, and then when you have questions, pop into the Q&As. The Q&As, most of the time, they tend to be during the daytime, but I also run some at night. Just kind of vary up the times to make sure that everybody can get in. What I was planning on doing is just sending out another survey with all the students and see what time zones work out best, and then kind of arrange it around that so that we can get the most people in, and then split them up so we can get the people who can't get there, those other ones. But some people don't like coming to Q&As too. Some people just like using email to ask questions or Facebook, and that's totally fine too.
It's very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So anybody that's joining live, I'm talking to Jason. He has a new course on game development, but we're just kind of talking about game development in general too. I mean, so if you're looking to start, I mean, how many hours a day should you be working on trying to learn this? I think that's a common question. Is like, how much time investment do you need? I mean, for course and also just in general for learning development, game development.
So I think in general, like at least from what I've seen, you're going to spend a good 2 or 3 hours at least focusing on whatever it is you're trying to learn. My experience though has been that when it comes to game development, most of the people who get in there and start learning things, they go for like 12 hours a day. And it's not because they have to, it's because they just get into it and they just can't stop. Right? They're just having too much fun. I was telling you about my buddy Josh. He's been doing game development now for 3 or 4 weeks, but up until the point when he had to pack all his house up and move, he was going for 12 to 14 hours a day whenever he could, and it was just he just couldn't stop doing it, just building games. It's fun once you see things running around, and then like, hey, well, how do I do this? And you go figure that out and start blowing things up, and it gets it's exciting. It's probably the most engaging way to learn to code. I mean, I still do it just in my normal day-to-day work. I'm like, I was gonna go watch this movie, but I really want to go put in this feature because that's gonna be exciting and fun.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I know. Same thing with just learning web development, or you're a brand new developer. I mean, just you kind of have to put in the time, even when even after you get that job. It's not uncommon for new developers or programmers, or even people that have been in the industry for a while, to put in 3 or 4 hours just to try to understand the fundamentals and to learn it all. And then even when, like I said, even when you're farther along, you're not learning the fundamentals, but you're just kind of honing your craft, I suppose. But there's always new frameworks, new things coming out. I'm guessing in game development and Unity, there's always new plugins. There's always like new things that are happening. Is that your recollection?
Somewhat, but nowhere near to the degree of web development. I've done some web stuff before, and the pace there is drastically faster. For most game development stuff, I'd say that the big features and the big changes are on around like a 1-year cycle, where you start to see a relatively big new thing come into whatever engine you're using. If you're using Unity or Unreal or Lumberyard or any of those, like the bigger features come at a slow pace. They're not, one every other week or one a month or whatever. And then there's little minor stuff all the time, but there's not really a whole lot that you have to figure out and manage. It's one of the nice things with both of the big game engine ecosystems is you don't really have to like go find a bunch of things. Most of the stuff's just built into the engine. There are a couple like core plugins that I always recommend everybody use, but beyond that, those don't change much, I guess is what I'm saying. It's just like, hey, go use these specific things, and then you're good, and you don't really have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm glad things don't go that crazy outside there. Let me ask you this: what I know you've done this course before, and so you've kind of had to refine it. So what's the difference? Can you name any like improvements you did from the first time you ran this course and this time?
Added 2 more weeks. The last time I did it, it was only 4 weeks. And then I added a fifth week on to the end of that because I felt like I just wanted to get more in there. And this time I just planned it out to go a full 6 weeks and dropped in a couple extra things that I felt were missing the first time around, like multiplayer setups, and a couple other little surprise things. Also, some camera changes. Like I said, I want to do first person and third person. Last time I only stuck with third person. And then we're going to be doing totally different game types too. So I've come up with a couple different projects that I think are going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, so you decided to do a little bit of improvements there, and why add a whole extra week? Why, you were saying that because you thought you needed a little bit more information?
I just wanted to add more. I don't know. I wanted to make it better, add more things to it, and add other things that I think people would be interested in learning. There were some people who had questions for stuff that I did after the last course, and like to get time to roll all that in and just have extra time to help people and go through stuff. Yeah, just want to make it a better value and even more helpful to everybody going through there.
And yeah, that's definitely more helpful to get everybody in there, to get all that stuff in there. Let me ask you another question. So you pretty much said there isn't really any prerequisites. You don't have to know anything to start this course. Do you think there's a type of, if you did have something you should know before you start the course, is there something that would be helpful? Not necessarily a prerequisite, but helpful that you should know before starting your course?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say obviously you want to make sure that you at least have Unity installed, you've run it, it worked, you've opened up some sample projects, played them, and the thing actually works on your system, which it should, but it's a good thing to double check. And then I would say go through a couple of the basic tutorials. I've got some on my website at unity3d.college. There are also some on the official unity3d.com site. There's a whole learn section where they do a couple different basic tutorials, just moving things around, shooting stuff. I play with those a little bit. Just I'd mainly just play with the engine so that you kind of feel comfortable and understand the parts. We'll be going over all that stuff, but it helps, of course, to have a little bit of extra familiarity beforehand. And if anybody has done any serious programming, they should find it relatively easy to catch up and get going. Like anybody who's done any web stuff or business development stuff, the code that we'll be writing is surprisingly simple. Like it's not super complicated. There's not a whole lot of hidden magic going on that you have to kind of understand. So it should be all pretty straightforward too. Then it's more just learning about the editor and the different parts in there, and where you can take big shortcuts by using things that are already built and avoiding coding them yourself. That's, I think, the biggest thing that I see people run into when they make a transition. I did it, and I've seen countless other people. They start coding up everything, like everything that's a problem. Usually the answer is code or a package with code. In game development, it's not always that way. There are often other ways that are easier to do things than write code for them. There's a lot of stuff that's built into the engine, optimized for performance, and already exists and does all the work for you. You just got to know where they are.
Yeah, I like that point of, you probably should have Unity installed, and it's free, so you can get it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there's some live viewers. I had a few questions. If you guys have any questions, you can put it in the box here. So I had one from Jeremy Jaden. He asks, when it comes to game development, do you normally have a solid idea before starting the development, or do you go from a simple framework and expand from there?
It depends a lot on the project. Sometimes with the project, we don't have any idea what it's even going to be, right? A lot of times they're starting out just prototyping, and we've got a couple different ideas for, these are the games that we think might be fun, and we're going to prototype out the core gameplay. And once we get to that point, and we'll go through prototype out. Usually what I like to do is like 3 or 4, try to do 1 or 2 a day. And play through the core stuff, pick the good ones, polish those up a little bit, and then pick one. And then from there, we have to come up with a plan of how to actually build it into a game and architect it in a way that's scalable and is going to work. And sometimes the games are super simple and it doesn't matter too much at all. It's a very basic thing, but other times working on big scale stuff like MMOs where you've got super complicated server systems and everything has to be extremely well architected. And usually it's somewhere like kind of in between there. We got to get the right level of design and architecture in there and the plan for it. And then shit changes constantly because it's a game and what people think is going to be fun is never exactly what's going to be fun. So you got to kind of plan for a lot of iteration, but the iteration's also fun. You're playing games when you're iterating.
Yeah. It's still looking like just a game for yourself. There's probably not as much structure if you're just coming up and putting some together than, if you're building an MMO.
Yeah.
Another question. Do you need deep understanding of calculus and trigonometry to do game development? That's from Jeremy.
Not at all. No, you need like very basic math and you're good. There are some game development jobs or positions that really do require that stuff. Graphics engineers, the guys who really like focus hardcore and only work on making things look pretty. Math is super important there. Or the people that make engines, like the guys that actually make Unity and Unreal. Super, super important there. Outside of that, though, most of the time you're adding, multiplying, and dividing or using some built-in function. And if there's ever something that's a little bit confusing, it's 30 seconds in Google away from finding the correct function to call. I've noticed that as a misconception. A lot of people think that you really have to know a lot of math, and it's because you used to. Back before the engines did all this shit for you, you really had to understand the math. You had to know exactly what was going on. You also had to manage memory really tightly and do a lot of other stuff that you no longer have to do. Now it's more about building the actual core game, like the gameplay parts that make sense for your game, that set your game apart, instead of building all that core framework stuff. Which is why I love making games, and also why it's realistic and feasible to just make games on your own without being some kind of genius like John Carmack.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, John Carmack from id, and now he's doing virtual reality.
Oh yeah, he's like CTO at Oculus. He's one of the smartest people on the planet. He basically invented 3D games.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I had that misconception too, that because everybody tells me one of the arguments against getting a degree for web developers or in just becoming a developer in general, people are saying, well, usually like a traditional computer science degree has quite a bit of math. Even the new software engineering degrees that are being offered have a number of engineering and math classes you have to take. And everybody's like, well, if I'm going to be front end of the computer and doing web development, do I ever really need to know math? And the answers are usually, no, you don't need to know math to do web development and a lot of different types of programming. And then the caveat would always be, well, the game developers, I think, probably use more math. You may need it for them. It sounds like that's not true either. Maybe very specialized game.
Yeah, like I said, there are occasions where you need some complicated math thing, like you want to figure out the force to add to make a cannonball fly and hit something. In that case, you just look it up and there's a code sample with the formula written there. I've done videos on that exact thing, right? But most of the time, like almost never do I need any complicated math. Like it's fractions or division or figuring out percents. Like the most complicated thing, math in most projects I've done is figuring out like how far to fill a slider percent wise based on some numbers. And that's because all the complicated math stuff is getting done by the engine. You tell it to turn to a direction and it turns to that direction.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. So I know your course. I put a link in the description. So you can get it. Also, if you use my coupon code Erik, ERIK at checkout, you can also get a discount. So you guys are interested that want to use my link below. So that's pretty awesome. So any last words on your course? I'm sure you're excited to get started next Monday. That's when it starts.
Yeah, we're starting on Monday. Closing registration Sunday night, and I'm excited. Everybody I've talked to who's already in is pretty pumped. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna learn some game development and get a couple people who don't have game dev jobs into the career or into the industry. Ton of fun. I wouldn't make the switch back anymore.
Cool. Oh, actually, one last question. What do you think about the Unity and Unreal game development courses on Udemy?
So I haven't gone through all of them. I'm sure there are some good ones out there. The ones that I have grabbed were they seem to be like a mix of, it was like somebody just pulling together a bunch of people's videos and shoving them into courses. So they were all like, an hour here on go do this project, 2 hours on this. I'm positive that there are some good ones out there. I just don't know which ones those would be and haven't seen those ones yet, at least not in the ones that I've bought. But I think, they're also super cheap. So if you're looking and that's in the price range, like go check them out, try it and let me know.
Yeah, and that's definitely, like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, you're having a comprehensive 6-week course where you don't have to be there live, but there's going to be a lot of bonuses for it rather than, a cheap $10 course where it's dubious quality.
Well, yeah, and ideally everybody is coming to the Q&A sessions live, and we're going over all the problems and getting all the questions answered right away. Or, like I said, Facebook or email too. So get 100% support and always a money back guarantee on everything.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it too, definitely. So if you guys are interested, links below in the description. And okay, thanks, Jason. Take care.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Have a great day, man.
You too.